travel consultant. My favorite destination is Ireland. Just when you go to Ireland, you feel like it's your home. My heart belongs to Derry. It's so beautiful. I traveled with this company, Royal Irish Tours, many, many, many years ago. And I just finished about 2 years ago a trip with them to Wales. I went around 21 years ago with them to Ireland. And I have to say that they are the best for Ireland. They're the best for Scotland, and they're the best for Wales. When you're traveling, especially in the last year that we've been through, you need to protect yourself. And Global Assistance Alliance is the insurance that we sell. We also sell the COVID insurance that they offer. And you can talk to your travel consultant about that, and they will be happy to help you navigate the rules of insurance. We also have a new program called Uplift. It's a method that you can do installments of payments, and there's no late fees or prepayment penalties. So please reach out to one of the Merit consultants, and they'll be happy to walk you through this. I'm now going to pass it over to a friend of mine, Jonathan Sargent, and he is a great leader with anything Ireland, Wales, and Scotland.
Thank you, Holly, for that lovely introduction, and hello everyone for joining us here today, wherever you may be. I know a lot of you are all across Canada. I myself am currently sitting in my home office in Toronto in full lockdown. My name is Jonathan Sargent, the sales manager with the Royal Irish Tours. My favorite destination, obviously I'm biased as I'm from Ireland, but definitely the West Coast, but Donegal and in the Northwest, seen in the picture there on the left, the Slieve Cliffs has a special place in my heart. My mother was from that county, and it's just a beautiful destination, really off the beaten track. In terms of what we specialize in, Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales, that's all we sell, just those 4 destinations. So we really are the experts. We are a Canadian company as well, with our head office in Richmond Hill. Fun fact, I recently became a Canadian citizen last year. So now, while I still don't have a Canadian accent, I've never lost the Irish one, I'm now a dual citizen of both Ireland and Canada. So I'm going to take you on a little journey around Ireland, and then I have a very special guest who's joining us from Ireland, who we're then going to pass over to for a little unique tour. But welcome to Ireland. Who you're traveling with today is Royal Irish Tours, or as we're also known, RIT Vacations. We're a family-owned and operated company. We are a Canadian company, so our head office, as I mentioned, Richmond Hill. Our owner in the top right there, Ian Duffy, and his son Connor. Very much a family business. We're in our 21st year now. So Holly said she was there 21 years ago. She must have been one of the first guests on Royal Irish Tours, because it was started back in 2001. So we're celebrating our 21st year now and have our own office in Canada as well as in Ireland. Just to give you an idea of how small Ireland is, I always use this map. So from Dublin in the east to Galway in the west, it's about a 3-hour drive. From Derry, where Holly lives, in the north, all the way down to Cork in the south, that's about a 9-hour drive. So it's really easy to get around. In a 1-week or 10-day long vacation, you can really see quite a lot of the country. We always recommend, if you're doing a week, do either a southern loop or a northern loop. If you have 2 weeks, do the whole island. 10 days is probably plenty if you're doing a driving holiday. If you're doing a coach tour, I definitely recommend 2 weeks to take in everything. But each destination has its own unique character, and it's really beautiful as you go around. So what you'll see before landing into Ireland, there's lots of ways to get there. Of course, Air Canada flies direct from Toronto and Vancouver. There's direct flights from Calgary with WestJet, and of course, in the East Coast, Halifax with WestJet as well. And Air Transat, of course, from Toronto and Montreal. So that's just to name a few of the services, but lots of great connecting flights via London and the US as well. Aer Lingus also flies direct. So it's only about a 7-hour flight from Toronto, about 9 hours from Vancouver. So it's only a hop, skip, and a jump across the pond. But if you look out the window about 20 minutes before you land, you'll see the beautiful islands on the west coast, and you'll see 40 shades of green, they say we have in Ireland, and you'll certainly see an abundance of colour when you look out the window. Upon arrival, I always recommend breathing in the fresh sea air. I actually took this picture. I was lucky enough to get back during COVID last year. I did an 8-week trip back home. My boss was nice enough to let me work from Ireland, so I definitely got out and about, and I really do miss that fresh Atlantic air, just the sea breeze. This is taken down just south of Kinsale in Cork. That's actually Old Head Golf Course on the left there. One of the most beautiful, but also one of the most expensive golf courses in the world to play. But a really beautiful part of the country, and there's so much nice hiking and biking around the coasts of Ireland. Of course, and I'm sure Holly's been here plenty of times, enjoy a pint or two of the black stuff when you're in Dublin. But what's really great about Ireland, obviously everyone knows the likes of Guinness and Jameson, kind of known around the world, but there's so many wonderful local breweries and beers you'll drink along the way. So for example, when you're in Cork, Guinness is the 3rd most popular stout because they have Murphy's and Beamish that are both 2 local companies they're very proud of. When you go to smaller areas, you'll often see a beer on tap that you've never heard of that's come from a local brewery down the road. Or you might drink a gin or a whiskey that's come from a local distillery you've never heard of. And I know Holly and I, when we were in Wales, were amazed at the amount of lovely different gins they have there. So gins really exploded in Ireland and the UK in the last few years, and there's plenty of wonderful distilleries. But if you don't like Guinness, maybe you prefer the Ishkabaha, the water of life, which is Irish for water of life, which means whiskey. So this is Middleton Distillery seen in the picture here down in Cork, one of the oldest working distilleries in the world. You'll learn about the Angel's Share on the tour of a whiskey distillery. But if you're interested in that, there's so many wonderful places that you can experience throughout the island of Ireland. In the Guinness Storehouse, just to touch on that, it's a lovely 7-floor experience where you kind of learn the history of Guinness, how it's made, but also learn about Arthur Guinness, who signed a 9,000-year lease for £1 on the property. He was the first person in Ireland to give sick days. He used to give paid holidays. He had accommodation for all his staff, so he was treating employees very well long before it was the norm to do so. And in the early 1900s, I know Guinness was, if you worked for Guinness, you were very proud to say that, and it was one of the best jobs you could have in Dublin. But the brewery still stands there today, and it really is an amazing experience. On the 7th floor, you have lovely views over the city from the Gravity Bar. You'll visit many colourful towns and villages as you go throughout Ireland. Again, I actually took these pictures myself down in the town of Kinsale in Cork last summer. I was out on a Sunday morning about 8 a.m. and it wasn't too busy, not too many people out, obviously being in the pub the night before. But it's so colourful, and all these little towns and villages, no matter what tour experience you're doing around Ireland, there's so many wonderful towns and villages you can stop in along the way. They'll always have a pub, nice church, lovely shops and things to see, but it really is nice to walk around, and Kinsale is definitely one of my favorites. Why you'll want to stay, perhaps not the reason you go on holiday, but the reason you'll want to stay is the Céad Míle Fáilte, the 100,000 welcomes you get from the people, and they really do make the trip. Whether you're lost on a driving holiday on the Wild Atlantic Way and you ask a local for directions, you know, you might not understand what they say, but they'll try their best to get you on your way, and you'll certainly have a fantastic experience. Someone's drawing on my presentation there, I can see, but no worries. The famous Irish pub, again, another wonderful part of Ireland, and there's a pub for everyone, I always say, in Ireland. It's a big part of the social scene in Ireland. So, you know, whether you're a big drinker or not, the pub is a place to meet, to socialize. It's always been a part of Irish culture. People will go for a cup of tea and a catch-up. They'll go for a nice glass of Guinness. But if you love live Irish music, you'll get that in abundance in many pubs. But there's also, I said, there's a pub for everyone. If you wanted a quiet pint and chat with a few locals, that's okay as well. And each town will have at least 5 or 6. When you get to the bigger towns, you'll have an abundance of pubs, many with live music, if that's your scene. The history, of course, lots of people with wonderful ancestry in Ireland, over 5 million Canadians with Irish ancestry, but you're never too far from a castle as well. We always try to explore a couple on our tours. Even you might get a chance to stay in one on a trip, but it really does make the trip exploring that history. And especially if you have ancestral links, there's lots of resources you can do. There's Epic Ireland in Dublin, for example, the Irish Emigration Museum, and you can go and learn about your family roots, sit down with an ancestral expert. And there's many other places throughout Ireland you can do that as well. Of course, the breathtaking scenery. Everyone knows the Cliffs of Moher, and I talked about Donegal and Slieve Leave Cliffs, which are actually 3 times higher than these cliffs, but another amazing experience. We also do a lovely cruise at the Cliffs of Moher now, so you can go out on a cruise ship across to the islands I showed in one of the earlier pictures, and then see the cliffs from below. So another marvelous experience. But if you get a clear day at the Cliffs of Moher, there's no better place to be. And you can see those little sardines up the top left there. They're actually people. There's some lovely hiking trails either way. So you could do a nice 10 or 15 kilometer walk, or a smaller loop if that's what you like, along the cliffs and around the area. The town of Doolin nearby is one of the best towns in Ireland as well. And there's so many great towns down in County Clare there. Another reason why people want to come back, again, not the reason they want to go, is the food. We really do pride ourselves on farm to fork, and like the people, it really is a reason to come back. Everything you're eating is generally sourced 15 or 20 miles from where you're eating it. You know, when you go to a restaurant, for example, you'll have the catch of the day on the menu that the chef probably picked up from the fish market that day. The hotels we use in Northern Ireland, you get a little booklet at breakfast, which will tell you who the farmer was of your eggs, of your meat. So it really is amazing. Of course, we don't get snow like we do here in Canada, so animals are out grazing 12 months of the year on the grass, which results in really tender meat. Obviously, being an island, lots of incredible seafood, but also some wonderful dairy products. And as I've touched on earlier, the likes of Guinness and Jameson, but so many artisan producers of all sorts of beverages now: whiskey, gin, cider, Armagh known as the Orchard of Ireland. The likes of Magners, which is known around the world, is obviously an international brand. That's from Ireland, but there's so many wonderful craft cideries as well as you go. And of course, the wonderful music I touched on. In all the pubs, you'll get a fantastic live Irish music. We always encourage a sing-along, and we always like to include Irish entertainment evenings on the last night of any of our tours. Historic homes and gardens. So there's over 500 beautiful historic homes throughout Ireland, many of them dating back to the 16th and 17th century, when the Queen and Kings of England were given land in Ireland to people who served in their military and stuff. And a lot of them built these fantastic homes, not as hotels. They built them as home, perhaps for 4 or 5 people to live in. This is Periscourt Estate here in the picture, and I know Prince Charles was there. I'm not sure if it was last summer or the summer before, as he has family roots tracing back to this. He obviously took the land off the Irish people and gave it to some of his people back in the day. But again, there's some incredible gardens to explore, and I know David's going to show us one, a unique one in Ireland quite shortly. But what's travel all about? It's really about the memorable experiences. It's the people you meet along the way, the people you travel with. And in Ireland, you're going to have an abundance of amazing experiences as you go. And as we're talking about Ireland, I thought there's no better way to show you this than to have someone live from Ireland give us a little tour. And so we're very excited to have David from the Irish National Stud and Japanese Gardens. And it's fantastic to have him on at this time of the year, which we will see shortly as we just get his video on. Are you there, David?
I'm here. Can you... Excellent. There we go.
Perfect.
Hello, everybody. You're all very welcome.
I'm just going to spotlight your video. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Yep.
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect. Off you go, David.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for having me, everyone. We've welcomed Royal Irish Tours virtually for all of the last 21 years, and we really do welcome all our Canadian friends. It's very hard. I decided not to do a boring old film show. I'm going to be brave and take you out live onto the farm. And before we go out into one of the gardens, I wanted to show you this very special place. I'm just going to flip my camera around here. You're in the maternity ward of the Irish National Stud. The Irish National Stud is a commercial working farm that breeds just top-class racehorses. Of course, there's a big Canadian connection here because virtually every racehorse in the world is related to the great Northern Dancer, the Canadian horse Northern Dancer from the 1970s. But we make our money several ways. Obviously, tourism would be one, but one of them is we have a hugely popular maternity hospital. It's just like a human maternity hospital. We foal in the months between January and the end of May, over 300 babies pop out. And literally like a hospital, people come, leave their mares here, we safely produce them, and then they go home the next day or so. So this is the pre-ward where all the ladies in behind those doors are waiting. We'll have 2 or 3 will pop out tonight. But if we sneak over here, I'll just try and find one of the babies that was born this morning, and see if we might wake him up out of his bed. If we go in here. There we go. There's a little baby born last night, or born this morning, the early hours. You always know a healthy foal will have a stretch once it's lying down and go straight to the milk bar. Isn't nature absolutely extraordinary that you think that foal was in that mummy's tummy literally a matter of hours ago, and it's already up, walking around and going to the milk bar. As I say, we fold over nearly still have many foals out in the paddocks, and from May onwards they're out 24/7. If we were another month or two, I'd bring you out into the paddocks as well. Come have a little, hey little Bubba, hey little Bubba, hey little Bubba. Oh, yes. So the Irish National Stud, as I say, we are a commercial farm, but we also have, we're geographically, we are just 40 minutes, under an hour, a bit more than 40 minutes, more close to the hour, south of Dublin on the main road. So if you're heading to the Wild Atlantic Way, heading to Cork, Kilkenny, Limerick, or anywhere south, we are a very good stop just out of Dublin, an hour out of Dublin. So you can use us as, if you're coming on a tour with the Royal Irish Tours, you're obviously beyond the tour. But if you're independently traveling, you can use us if you're just based in Dublin, or if you're heading south. We have during the height of the season, we have in 2019 we had about 130,000 people, but that was spread over the whole year and over 600 acres. Jonathan, I think I'm going to walk over to one of the gardens now. So if you can just take over for another 3 or 4 minutes, I'll get myself in one of the gardens and I'll go into a little bit more details of what we do here on the farm.
Sounds good. Thanks, David.
Okay.
If you can just mute yourself as well, that'd be great. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, David, for that lovely, unique experience. It's amazing to see a foal born just today. I'm sure the foal, someone commented saying the mother's not letting you get too close. So I'm sure this is the first time they've seen a fawn as well. So the Irish National Stud in Japanese Gardens is included on a number of our tours, but a really wonderful experience. And when you're in Ireland, there's so many amazing experiences like this. David's going to bring us to the beautiful Japanese gardens, so I'm not going to spoil them by showing you too many pictures here. But I'll just talk about a few different ways to travel around the island of Ireland. So what is your travel style? Well, in terms of what Royal Irish Tours sell, we sell escorted coach tours, which is maximum 38 guests on a 55-seater coach. Obviously, with current restrictions, it's down to 30, but we're not sure we're going to get any coach tours out on the road this year, and we're looking ahead to 2022 for those. We also do smaller sightseeing tours, which are small group tours, maximum 16 guests, which is a great way to experience Ireland. Adventure tours as well, with a company called Vagabond. So that's by day, you do things like surfing, hiking, biking, horse riding, and then by night you stay in nice 3- and 4-star hotels in lovely seaside towns. Traveling by rail, not the most extensive in Ireland, but a really great way to travel around if you want to do city stays or something a little more independent and you're not comfortable driving. But I always say the best way to get around, if you're comfortable driving on the left, as we do drive on the left in Ireland and the UK, doing a lovely driving holiday, fully customizable through your agent at Merit Travel. You can do a mix of staying in hotels, manors, castles, whatever it is you wish to. And also Chauffeur Drive is a great option. If you're not comfortable driving on the left, that's your own personal driver guide with you for the duration of the trip. What really sets us apart, we always say, is our staff. And most have been with us 10+ years. This is Joe O'Connor seen here in the picture. He's one of 3 Joes working for us. So people always come back raving about Joe. There's a good chance they're talking about him, but they really do make the trip. They always have so many wonderful stories to share. And as they say in Ireland, we never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So if you ask them any questions, they'll certainly give you an answer. Hopefully it's a truthful one, but if they don't know the answer, it's rare that they'll say they don't know. They'll often spin you a yarn, as they say. We do tend to have more inclusions than a lot of the other tour operators. So if you are doing a coach tour with us, just look at what's included: most of your evening meals, all your breakfasts, and all your attraction visits. I just gave you an idea of one of the tours we do, just to give you an idea of kind of the perfect trip around Ireland, I would say. So if you have 2 weeks and Ireland's on your bucket list and you're only going to go once, this is the tour I would recommend. It does a full anti-clockwise lap of Ireland. We try to do 2- and 3-night stays wherever possible, visiting many of the wonderful towns and cities around the way. Lots of people doing driving holidays and stuff. I would always recommend doing a similar itinerary to this. Say you're doing 1 week or 10 days, you might just pick 3 or 4 of these spots and base yourself there for 2 nights. But driving distances between all the destinations isn't too far. As I mentioned earlier, the likes of Westport to Donegal, that's about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive, and that's all you do driving in that day. So it's really easy to get around and so much to see and do. We obviously have lots of different coach tour experiences, but it's more about inspiration today, and that just gives you an idea of some of what we do. But as I said, the best way to do it is get lost along the way on a driving holiday. And you can see on the right there all the different accommodation options. So bed and breakfasts are really nice. That's often retired couples whose kids may have moved out and they've just turned their lovely family home into a nice bed and breakfast. They're all very modern now, so it would be en suites. We work with the company Bed and Breakfast Ireland. There's over 800 bed and breakfasts throughout Ireland. And they're also like your own personal tour guide as well. They'll tell you the best pub to go for your dinner, the best restaurant, and really nice walking and hiking and things to do in the area. And it really is a lovely experience. Self-catering as well. You can do up to 1 week or 2 week stay in a cottage rental, and not like cottages we have here in Ontario. A cottage in Ireland might be a thatched roof and there might be a little 1 or 2 bed cottage, but are really nice to get off the beaten track. Very popular with honeymooners or people just looking to get away for a few days. Hotels, castles, and manors are a great option as well. And people doing driving holidays will normally do a mix of them all. And if you're not comfortable driving on the left, as I mentioned, Chauffeur Drive is a great option. For the more adventurous, the adventure tours I mentioned are a great option. And even if you're doing your own driving holiday, there's lots of places you can do things like horseback riding. You can rent good mountain bikes or road bikes in most of the towns around the country. There's so many mountains, not like the mountains we have here in Canada, but smaller mountains that are great for a half day or a full day hike. And of course, being an island, lots of wonderful seaside walks and activities. Golf is also, of course, very popular. They say you're never further than 20 kilometers from a golf course in Ireland as well. And the train journeys are a lovely way just to experience a few destinations. So the train, as I said, it's not overly extensive in Ireland, but with the train, you would take the local public train from destination to destination and then be met by a tour guide on arrival, have your own city accommodation booked, and then add on to some smaller sightseeing tours from there if you do one of the pre-packaged train tours, or you can just do an open-ended city stay package where you travel destination to destination on the train and just do a few city stays along the way, which is a really nice way to do it as well. And some of the train journeys are right on the coast here. This is the Dublin Area Rapid Transport, the DART, seen here in the picture. So if you are doing a city centre stay and you want to get out to the seaside, 30 minutes north or south on the train will take you to the coast. My top tip is always to stay in a luxury Irish castle, and there's abundance of them throughout Ireland. And there's some wonderful, unique properties not far from where the National Stud is as well. Barberstown Castle is a beautiful castle. And there's also the lovely 5-Star K Club, which is an amazing resort that hosted the 2006 Ryder Cup. But the price of a 4 or 5-star castle in Ireland is generally the same price as a 4-star hotel in any major city in Europe, including Dublin or Edinburgh or even London. So a really great option, sometimes cheaper than staying in a city centre 4-star hotel. So a really nice option for a night or two, and it really is like stopping back in time. And again, this is kind of the theme, I think, for everyone at the moment, is get outdoors. And there's so much to do and see outdoors in Ireland. This is the Carrick-a-Rede Rope Bridge seen here in the picture. But there's some amazing experiences you can do throughout, whether it's hiking, biking, walking, or just visiting some of the outdoor attractions like the National Stud and the beautiful gardens there are to explore. Of course, the elephant in the room, COVID itself. So at the moment, as I mentioned, our coach tours are currently postponed, and we're not likely to run our coach tours this year. At the moment, there's full strict quarantine, hotel quarantine in place for Canadians visiting Ireland, €1,800 and 10 days in a hotel. So at the moment, it's not feasible for people to travel. However, the vaccine rollout here is going a little better. And in Ireland, they're aiming to vaccinate over 400,000 people a week in the next few weeks. And by the end of September, they're hoping to have everyone vaccinated who wants to be vaccinated. Of course, Northern Ireland falls under the UK jurisdiction, and by end of July, everyone in Northern Ireland who wants to be vaccinated, which is a third of the population on the island of Ireland, will be by the end of July. So it's great to see these positive steps. If you're looking to do an independent vacation later in the year, I would look at September or October at the earliest, but we're really looking ahead to 2022 now. Also look out for the Island of Ireland safety charters, and for Northern Ireland and the UK, there were good to go marks. So all the companies throughout Ireland and the UK would have done this COVID safety training to make sure they're up to standard. And we're only working with companies, of course, who have this training done for all their staff. And we, of course, have done this as well. And so it's kind of peace of mind for you when you're in Ireland, the UK, and all the tourist accommodation and all the attractions, you know, really want to be open. So they're doing all they can to ensure the safety and the seamless experience when you're there. Also, if you are booking a trip with Merit, with Royal Irish Tours, we have a flexible booking policy. So if for any reason your tour doesn't go or you're unable to travel, you would have a future travel credit for that deposit, which is maximum $300 per person, which would then be moved and valid for up to 2 years after your initial date. You can change your destination or tour up to 30 days before departure. So even if you've made your final payment at 32 days before, if you decide you're not comfortable traveling for any reason, you can push that to a later date. That's no problem at all. So it is peace of mind for you, but we do really recommend you get that Allianz insurance through Merit to ensure you're not left in the lurch, but we'll do everything we can to ensure you have a safe and seamless process in Ireland. 2022 is now on sale, and as I said, it is booking up fast, but a really amazing place to visit, and I highly recommend everyone to go to Ireland at least once in your life. These are always some common questions we get. What's the weather like, for example, in Ireland, spring and fall? I always say it's about 15 to 20 degrees by day, 10 to 15 at night, although David might tell us differently, as I know it's raining in Ireland there. But I know when I rang on Monday, he wished this webinar was on Monday, as it was 20 degrees there. In summer, it doesn't get higher than 25 really, similar to, I would say, a Vancouver climate. However, we don't get quite as warm in the summer, and we don't get quite as cold in the winter. So we always recommend layers in Ireland. Bring a raincoat, bring a light rain jacket, and bring a warm sweater for the evening. Any of our tours are very casual. Bring some comfortable footwear for hiking and walking if that's what you're into. Currency in Ireland, we use the euro, and in Northern Ireland, the Great British Pound. So it's about 155 Canadian dollars gets you €1 currently. And the average cost for lunches and dinners, you're looking at about 10 to €15 for a lovely lunch in a pub or a restaurant, and about 20 to €25 for a dinner. And again, if you're doing one of our coach tours, most of your evening meals are included, but lunch would always be on your own. More importantly, how much is the pint of Guinness or a wee Scotch or a wee Irish whiskey? You're looking at about €4 in rural areas, and then Dublin would be a similar price to what you would pay in the likes of Toronto or Vancouver. And if you are doing a coach tour, as I said, you saw how small the island of Ireland it is. You're never longer than 3 or 4 hours on the coach in any one day, and you're never longer than an hour without having something spectacular to see or to stop along the way. So that just gives you kind of a quick overview of some of the things we do in Ireland, and hopefully I've somewhat inspired you, but I know David is going to now show us a wonderful other part of the Irish National Stud, which is something very unique to Ireland. If you're there, David, and then we'll pass back over to Mara to finish off. There he is.
Hi there. Hi there. Yes, I'm back again. And I'm just going to reverse my camera, and I brought you to a little oasis in the middle of the farm. This bizarrely is well over 120-year-old Japanese garden. And I can hear some of you thinking, what the hell have you got a Japanese garden, and a unique one, right in the middle of Ireland? Well, briefly, there was a very wealthy landlord who made all his money from beer. He wasn't a Guinness; he was a different beer. He was a different beer family, and he wanted to show off. And it was before travel. So he turned around and he brought in a Japanese gardener from Japan, and he was given 40 laborers in 5 years. Can you imagine that nowadays? You could build a hospital with that. And basically he was an endless budget, and a lot of the stonework, the bonsai trees, and they were mature bonsai trees, the tea house, there's a tea house over there, were imported from Japan. And it is actually a world famous Japanese garden. It was common for the late Victorian to do something like that. You can head down to West Cork, and there's a place called Garnish Island, which has a most amazing Italian Renaissance garden. And it was another wealthy English politician, and they would have rung each other up and said, I bet you mine's bigger than yours type stuff. But it's a lovely little sort of extra thing you can do on the farm. There's actually a passageway through this garden, which is the path of life. So he built it that you have a passageway of birth, learning, adventure, ambition, way up. And then when you come to this last bit of the farm, there's a chair of old age right up to the hill of morning. And a lovely quirk. This is only one of 2 gardens in the Irish National Stud. As I say, we have over 600 acres. Well, we have over 900 acres, but 600 acres on site. So we also have a much bigger wild Irish garden with waterfalls and lakes called St. Fiacre's Garden, and that's in the right down the centre of the farm as well, which separates all the female horses and the male horses, so that you could really spend any amount of time here. As I said, we're under an hour from Dublin. When you come here, you have a choice. You can go on a public tour. You could also reserve a private tour guide. And we're also introducing for 2022 an ultra luxury tour. If you really want to get down and dirty and behind the scenes and spend 3, 4, 5 hours literally going to the phoning unit. We might even take to the honeymoon suite if you want. We have 9 stallions here, and those 9 stallions will individually meet. Well, between the 9 of them, they'll have over 700 ladies who'll come and visit them. So there's an awful lot you can do behind the scenes, and we end up in the boardroom, and a very classy boardroom, and you can find all out the visit. So they're the options. We also have a spectacular new for 2020. It's new for this year, once indoor attractions open up, and that is basically, we call it the Irish Racehorse Experience, and that we built an experience, because a lot of people come here and they say, oh my God, what happens to all these babies? And what happens to them is that they go off to the auctions. Of course, the famous ones around you, you've got Ocala, well, that's in Florida. You've, gosh, I'm just thinking I have been to a famous one in Canada. I just can't think for life now where it is now. And they go there as yearlings just before they're ready to be broken. And when they go to the when they go there, that is when the owner buys them with the trainer, and they go off into training. So a lot of people say, well, what happens? So we built this exhibition, which you will be absolutely amazed, where people can come and interactively take part in pretending to be an owner. So they come to the exhibition, they get an iPad or a tablet, and then they go to the sales, they buy a horse, then they have to give it a name. Then as they learn all around the exhibition, they have to give it a trainer, they have to design colors for the jockey. Again, learning. And as we get closer and closer to the big race day, we have an 8-horse simulator where people can race with an IMAX screen in front of them to see how well their decision made. That's called the Irish Racehorse experience, and there's already been a lot of noise, and yet it hasn't officially been open to the public. But we've got hundreds and hundreds of pre-bookings for people wanting to come and see it. But as well as that, as I say, we've got acres of paddocks full of mares and foals. We have some living legends, which are retired geldings. Geldings are castrated horses. They're very quiet, but these are superheroes in the European racing circuit. They've got great names like Hurricane Fly and Beefore Salmon. Isn't that a great name for a racehorse? Someone went to a wedding and looked at the menu and went, that's a good name, Beefore Salmon. So Beefore Salmon was a racehorse, and he became very famous. But some of these old boys, when they retired, they come here and they get spoilt rotten, and they're practically orange. They get given so many carrots by the members of the public. So you can really get up close and personal. And then, of course, we have our famous stallions out in the field, the boys. They have their own individual paddocks, and they're double fenced in case they they are a little bit more health and safety. We have to worry that people can't get quite as close to the stallions, but they're very active. But one of the things we really do ask people to do is take a tour, be it a public tour or a private guide, because the things that we do and the business is extraordinary. It's like anyone's business, if you don't know about it, is interesting. But the thoroughbred breeding business is quite a unique business. There are over 30,000 people employed in the thoroughbred business in Ireland. And that is why the government, this is a semi-state body, the government own all the lands here. We're self-supporting. We don't have any money from the government, but the government own all the lands here. And the reason it was that rich landlord I was telling you about, he gifted it to the nation. And the Irish kept it on because they see it as a huge flagship, if you like, for an industry which is absolutely flourishing, where we are recognized as one of the top breeders of racehorses and in the entire world. As I say, for every 5 people, there's nearly a racehorse. It's extraordinary, as I say. And we also have a huge international people, the Maktoum family, who own and run Dubai. They have over 8,000 acres. The Aga Khan, funny enough, the rich landlord who lived here, he introduced the Aga Khan's grandfather to racing. He has several farms around here. But the biggest in the world is an Irish-owned farm called Coolmore and Associated Farms. They have over 9,000 acres and over 1,000 employees. So it's a very, very healthy business that we're really proud of. So we love to have people here, tell them about it, and tell them how it all works. But while they're doing that, as I say, having great fun with gardens like this. So we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm sorry we won't see anyone probably till at least the autumn this year. Our domestic market is flourishing. We opened up domestically about 2 weeks ago. We're about to have a bank holiday weekend, and we're booked out for that. So So domestically, luckily, we'll have lots of people, but we'll welcome all our Canadian friends, hopefully, for 2022.
Thank you, David. That was a lovely overview to get live from Ireland and to see the beautiful garden as well as to meet the foals. So I'll pass back over to Holly now to see if there's any questions for you or for us. But I hope everyone enjoyed this lovely tour around the island of Ireland. And we tried to show you some nice pictures of just give you a bit of a taste of what you can see and do when you're on the island of Ireland. So over to you now, Holly, if there's any questions.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Jonathan, and thanks, David. I do have a question, David. I understand that there's a lot of million-dollar horses that you have at the farm. Can you tell us a little bit more on what stallions are worth? What are they worth on your farm?
On mute. Yes, can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, I hear you, David.
Yeah, well, we have a lead stallion here. He's called Invincible Spirit. And Invincible is one of the top 10 stallions in the entire world. He started from a humble background. When he retired here to the Irish National Stud, you could use him with your mare for a meager 10,000 euros. But when his first 2-year-olds came out, they started to win everything, and everyone think, what's this happening? He's not a very expensive horse. And they piled in, and he went up to 30,000. And that means when they go up in price, the better, classier ladies, the ladies that ran a bit faster, they can afford, they start to come in. Then he peaked at then he didn't peak, he went up to 60,000. He peaked at 120,000 euros. When I first started back here in 2014, his insurance was 60 million euros. He's now not insured because you can't get life insurance for an old age pensioner, but he's still very, very active. And this year he'll get over 100 ladies at $100,000 US dollars a go. And every covering, without sounding crude, people might know this, in the entire world and including Canada, every single racehorse has to be done naturally. There's no artificial insemination in racing in the entire world. That's to secure that numbers don't go mad, and there are, that there aren't millions and millions and millions of racehorses. So every racehorse in the entire world is conceived naturally. So he's having a very busy time at the moment. We have what we call a drive-in service at the moment, where there are coach loads of cars coming in the morning. They have the busiest stallion has an 8 o'clock, an 11 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, an 8 o'clock, and if they're really, really busy, we get them up at midnight as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much, David, for doing that. I know it was kind of a misty day, and we appreciate you taking us around, and what a treat to see the baby. I mean, wow, that is something that you can't get, especially with all the lockdowns that are going in place in Ireland at this moment. So I appreciate all what you're doing for us. That's great. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And that foaling unit is actually open to the public. People can look in. Obviously, they can't open the door like I did, but they're open. And then we have what we call nursery paddocks all around the farm. So during the foaling season, there are these small paddocks where you have 2 or 3 mums and babies running around, and the paddocks are full. Now that does all come to an end in June, but there are still stacks of mares and foals there. All babies have to be born nearest January the 1st because that's their official birthday.
So if I was to come, David, I'd be able to touch one of the horses, like I can touch and feed the horses, right?
Absolutely, especially those living legends, those old retired horses. As I said, they nearly go orange. They get so many carrots. They're absolutely lovely. The mares and foals are out there they're not, as I say, tame. So, but more often than not, they'll have their head over the fence, and we have lots of signs to warn people that warn horses kick and bite. So, but we've managed to get away. A lot of people say it's extraordinary that we let people get as close to the horses, but you know, we've been doing this for 30, 40 odd years. And if people respect the horses, it seems to work. And more often than not, as I say, they'll have their head over the fence and people are giving them a lovely rub and a scratch.
Oh, great.
David, somebody in the chat actually has asked a question about the horses. They wanted to know, are there any colorings for the horses that are specific for the area or maybe considered unique? Or are certain colorings preferred?
The thoroughbred is basically you have basic colors. So you have what you have the gray. We have a gray stallion. Obviously, and incidentally, they're never born gray. They're always born black and if they're going to go gray, they go gray over a period of time. They're never, ever, ever born gray. That's a sort of one of those Trivial Pursuit questions. So you have gray. You never call them black. We call them brown or dark brown. And then you have a bay, which is like a light brown, or you have a chestnut, which is it's chestnut is chestnut color. It's that beautiful orangey bright color. There are funny little people ask, you know, people suddenly said, I don't like a chestnut female. Sometimes they'll say they're a bit too fiery. There is a few old traditions, but then there are things like people like thoroughbreds with longer ears than the other one because they think they're more intelligent. There's lots of old wives' tales of things, but generally but then if you're looking at sport horses, they come in multitudes of colors. You have pieballs, skewballs, Appaloosas, and everything. And of course, Ireland is as famous for those sort of horses. We here at the farm basically breed race horses, thoroughbreds, but Ireland is just as famous for show jumpers, hunters, ponies, everything. My wife was an international 3-day event rider, so we have sport horses at home, and they come in every sort of color.
It's great.
Thanks, David.
Hello.
We have some questions, so I think I'm going to pass it over to Annabelle, and she can actually read some of the questions and answer.
Yep, so there's actually a lot of questions. We're going to try to get to all of them. First off, and actually this one's for you, Holly. Somebody wanted to know if they can book a tour on its own without the flight.
Yes, you can do that, and we can arrange it. You can get a hold of your Merit Travel consultant, and we can arrange that for you.
Perfect. Also, what types of foods could we expect to see on a menu if they were going to take one of the tours?
Yeah, I mean, generally so if you're doing a tour, the meals included would be generally a 3-course evening meal. So you're generally going to get a meat and a vegetarian option. I saw someone asked about allergies and vegetarians. Ireland actually has the highest rate of celiacs in the world, so very good at gluten-free dishes. And we can also cater to any sort of allergies or food preferences. So generally there'll be a meat or a fish option, or maybe a meat and a fish option, and there's always a vegetarian option. And then a full Irish breakfast, no matter if you book with Royal Irish or through Merit and another company, you'll pretty much always have breakfast included on any trip to Ireland. So when you book a hotel, generally breakfast is included unless it specifically says it's not included. So a full Irish breakfast includes anything from sausage, bacon, mushrooms, tomatoes, potatoes, normally some fresh Irish soda bread, porridge, and then a full continental as well. And so generally you get a good hearty Irish breakfast, and then you're on your way for the rest of the day.
So you touched on vegetarian dishes, but like how vegetarian friendly would you say Ireland is?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's extremely vegetarian friendly. So pretty much everywhere you go, no matter what restaurant or bar you're in, there'll always be plenty of options for vegetarians on the menu.
Okay, perfect. And can somebody set up a start and stop type of tour, one that would do some touring, then maybe some adventuring, then for a workshop, and then resume a tour? Is it totally customizable?
Yeah, so fully customizable. So talk to your Merit Travel advisor, and they can put that together through us. So for us, we have our own office in Dublin, and everything's fully customizable. So if you wanted to do 2 nights in a hotel, have a car rental for a couple of days, then drop that back, and then don't do anything for 3 or 4 days if you're at a conference, and then have a transfer from that conference or pick another Coral. So yeah, absolutely, that's possible as well. We generally don't book the attraction visits, so that would kind of be on your own. So generally, the accommodation, car rental, any transfers could be included on the tour, and then go as you please.
Okay. And can you give us, I know this is going to be a very general question, but somebody wants to know the difference between the cost between a bus tour and a chauffeur tour. I don't know if you'll be able to like.
Yeah, so a coach tour, as there's probably 25 plus people on it, and the rate for that is going to be a lot cheaper than if you're doing a chauffeur drive tour. But if you're doing a chauffeur drive trip with say 4 to 6 all in one vehicle, it's not going to be too much more expensive. So for a week-long trip, it might be $700 or $800 more per person for a chauffeur drive trip of 4 to 6 rather than doing a coach tour. And if it's 2 people doing a chauffeur drive, it's going to probably be more than double the price of doing a coach tour. So the average price of a week-long coach tour, you're looking at, $2,000 to $2,500, and for 2 people doing a week-long chauffeur drive, about $5,000. But obviously, it gets much cheaper if you have more than 2 in the one vehicle, as you still have the one guide, and you're kind of having the cost for if you have 2 couples rather than 1 couple, for example.
Okay. Do you arrange for car rentals at a reduced rate?
Yes, so the car rental, we work with Enterprise, and we get very good rates for the car rentals. So generally, there's a good policy where you can pick up at Dublin Airport and drop off at any Enterprise car rental throughout Ireland. So a lot of people will often avail of the transfer service we do from Dublin Airport into their city centre hotel. They might do their 2 nights in Dublin or 3 nights in Dublin without a car rental, then pick the car rental up in Dublin city centre, do touring for a few days, and then drop it back at the airport the day they're leaving. So that's a good option. But yeah, the rates would be very competitive, I would say.
Thank you. Is there a single supplement for your trips?
Yes, there will be. So for a coach tour, the single supplement, you're probably looking at an extra $100 per day. Just because the way the accommodation works in Ireland and the UK, you're booking per room. So obviously for 2 people, it is a good bit cheaper. However, for some of our sightseeing tours, we do have reduced single supplements. So for like a 5-day tour, you're looking at a $300 or $400 single supplement. And while it'd be a bit higher for some of the coach tours, but yes, we do have single supplement rates.
And what about hiking? Do you provide like ideas on where to go hiking?
Yeah, so if you're doing your own thing and traveling around, any of the towns would have like the tourist office where you could go to get lots of really great maps and ideas. But of course, when putting the trip together, we'd work with Merit to ensure they know where lots of the hiking places are. Most of the hiking in Ireland is free to do. So there's so many wonderful places like the Wicklow Way. You could do my brother's wife did it. She's from Belgium. And she did a 9-day walk the Wicklow Way on foot. It's a 9-day tour, and she said she barely saw any people in 9 days, and she stopped in little bed and breakfast all along the way. So for the really adventurous hikers, there's things like that. But once you're outside the cities, there's so many wonderful hiking trails and mountains to climb up, and it really is amazing. So we can certainly give some recommendations. But when you're in destination, just ask a local or go to the local office. But of course, Merit and us in advance can give you lots of advice too.
Okay, I think we've covered off all the questions. I know Vivian in the chat is trying to figure out how to ask a question. Vivian, I'm gonna say that you should just type it in the chat, like how you're chatting to me right now. If you have a general question, just type it in there and I will read it off and Jonathan will do his best to answer it. If nobody else has any questions, or Vivian, you can't type that question out, somebody from Merit will send a follow-up. We will be emailing everybody the link so that the recording of this, so you could watch it on your own time. And I'm going to hand it over to Holly so she can just cover off what we have coming down the pipes.
So we have a couple more talks. One is Club Med for May 13th. Another one is Canada for May 27th. The one May 29th for Italy is another live presentation. We're trying our hand at this live presentation, and I think it is working out well. And it's nice to see something in live time, countries especially. So bear with us when we work through this, but I think we're doing a pretty good job. June 10th, we have an Adventure Canada. You can get a hold of your travel consultant at Merit, and we can sign you up, or we can help you walk you through on how to sign up. Again, everyone, you know, it's a gloomy day here in Innisfil, where I am. So instead of just watching mindless TV, or, you know, it's nice to go on one of these virtual travel talks and get excited about traveling again. I know, as you all are probably very bored, and I cannot wait to get on a plane and especially go to Ireland and just feel like you're at home, but not quarantined at home, right? So let's cross our fingers and, you know, let's get some information and try to, you know, be excited about traveling again. Thank you very much.
There's just one last question, couple last questions. Somebody's asked, what's the difference between Merit Travel and Royal Irish Tours? Merit Travel, we are the Canadian travel agency, and we work with travel partners around the world. One of them is Royal Irish Tours, among many others. So contact us if you're interested in finding out more about Ireland. Somebody else has asked if we're going to be doing more Ireland presentations on Ireland. It isn't in the cards for the next couple months. We have some others that are coming up, but who knows, in the future, we can definitely look into that for you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.